Hey all, I'm Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am sharing some not so spooky book recommendations. So in my last video, I shared some spooky book recommendations. I will link it up in the cards and down in the description box. Today I wanted to share some books that are not so spooky. So these are romance books, there's some middle grade, there is some YA paranormal, that is on the lighter side and not so scary. And I am going to kind of organize them. So we're going to start with middle grade first. So the first book I want to recommend is Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. This is a middle grade series that is still ongoing. This first book is perfect for October. It takes place in fall, and you are following this class. They are going to this farm, and when they are on this farm, the class is abducted and the class becomes scarecrows, except for 3 students who break free, and they have to try to save their class from this evil scarecrow. This series is so much fun. There are 3 books released now, and I think the last book is coming out next year. Catherine Arden is known for her Winter Night trilogy, which is an adult historical fantasy. And this is just a really fun middle grade series. This book is dark and spooky without being legitimately scary, and it has the perfect fall vibes. Like I said, they are at this like fall farm. There's scarecrows and pumpkins and ghosty elements, and all the while you're following this group of kids trying to save the day. But Catherine Arden just has the most stunning writing, so I really love and recommend this middle grade series. The last middle grade book I have is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This is book 1 in the Cassidy Blake series, which is a trilogy that is now complete, so you can binge them all. This follows a main character named Cassidy, who after a near-death experience can now see ghosts. And even though her parents don't know that she can see ghosts, her parents happen to be ghost hunters. And they have a television show, and they travel around the world, and they go and visit the most haunted cities in the world, but Cassidy is the only one that can actually see ghosts. First book takes place in Edinburgh, and then I believe book 2 is Paris, and book 3 is New Orleans. And in this first book, Cassidy discovers that she has a purpose for her ghost seeing abilities, and she meets a friend who helps her learn to use her abilities. She also has a best friend named Jacob who happens to be a ghost. It's a really fun, spooky series. Like I said, it's geared towards kids, so even though it has spooky elements, it's definitely not scary by any means. This has a really fun audiobook. The whole series is a really great audiobook. There's sound effects and voices, and the narrator does a fantastic job. And each audiobook is only like 3 hours long because these are really short. So I definitely recommend this one if you want some not so scary ghost vibes. I then have 2 graphic novel recommendations. One is one that I just read this year, and that is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. This is a romance between a vampire and a werewolf, and this is told in kind of a really cool way because the graphic novel itself isn't like one continuous story. It's more like each panel is just kind of this little like glimpse or snapshot into their life and relationship. And so you just kind of get these like little glimpses of them kind of not only meeting but falling in love and making these like big decisions and like, moving in together and having the kids discussion and all these things. But it's really funny and adorable. The hero is the werewolf. He talks to dogs while they go out for a walk and like chases squirrels. And since the heroine is a vampire, she's always doing her makeup in the mirror, but she can't actually see her face. It's a book you can sit down and read in a sitting. So definitely recommend this one if you're looking for something like fun and light and romantic for the Halloween season that still gives you all of the Halloween vibes. Then the last graphic novel I have is Mooncakes, and this was going around a lot last year. This is a YA graphic novel that follows a witch and a werewolf. The werewolf is non-binary, and the witch and her are best friends, and they have a romance, and it is really, really cute. The witch is kind of like coming to terms with her powers, and she's questioning what she wants to do next. If she wants to kind of like stay with the family, or if she wants to go and grow as a witch or as a person. When her best friend comes back to town suddenly, the 2 of them kind of rekindle their romance. and they also have to maybe take down a bad guy. This book is just, it's really fun. The artwork is beautiful. It's really colorful, and I really, really liked it. It's done in like very cool tones. I believe this also does take place around Halloween, if I'm remembering correctly. I do want to reread this on Halloween this year just to refresh my memory, and I feel like it'll be a fun Halloween read. The next section is YA paranormal, and first up is The Cassette Girls by Alice Arden. This is a very underhyped paranormal YA story. I have not seen many people talk about this. I personally heard about this series from Olivia Reads a Latte, who I will link down below. This is following a girl who returns to New Orleans in the aftermath of Katrina, and while she is down there, she is kind of discovering how terribly her town and home was destroyed, and all the while she is uncovering that she might have powers, and she is meeting some mysterious, possibly paranormal people, and she's kind of sucked into this paranormal plot, gets wrapped up into this witchy coven. This just has a lot of paranormal threads that I loved. There's vampires, there's witch covens, there's ghosts and hauntings, and I've only read this first book, and it does, I don't want to say ends on a cliffhanger, but you're kind of left hanging. Like, this main story in book 1 is wrapped up, but there are dangling threads, and I really want to continue on to book 2. They are chunky books, I will warn you, and I believe there are 4 books in the series, and I believe all 4 are now out. Not 100% positive. The next book in this category is The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. This is a YA story about witches, and I'm all about the witch stories lately. I've just been loving them. And this one's YA, but it is set in college, and you are following 2 girls. One is determined to be the president of a sorority on campus. She has always known that she is a witch, and she is part of this sorority that is actually a secret coven of witches. And along with her, you are following this other girl who has no idea that she is a witch, but she decides to rush the sorority because this is supposed to be the top sorority on campus. And when she randomly gets a bid, she discovers that witches are real and that she has powers, and the 2 of them don't get along at all, and they kind of have to work together to uncover this mystery of what is going wrong with their sorority, because things are starting to go wrong. Who does not want to be part of a sorority that is secretly a coven of witches? Next up for YA paranormal, I have Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This was another favorite book of mine from last year. I adore this book. It is everything. This follows a boy who is trans, and he is kind of struggling with his family to make them understand that he is actually a boy, and he is determined to prove himself as a brujo. And in order to do that, he works with his cousin to try and summon a ghost and kind of complete the trial, I guess for lack of a better word, to become a brujo. And it works, but he accidentally summons the ghost of a classmate, and the ghost won't go away. And so now he is stuck with this ghost of his classmate, who is actually one of like the bad boys in town, and the 2 of them start to develop feelings for each other. He has to figure out how to move the guy on, all while starting to develop feelings for him, as well as uncovering why people are mysteriously dying and then going missing. There is a lot of exploration about family and identity and love and self-acceptance and familial acceptance, and it is so beautiful. And this whole book takes place around Halloween. I believe the last part of this book takes place on Dia de los Muertos, so it's perfect for this time of year. It has an adorable romance. I love these characters so much, and Aiden Thomas is just such a good writer. I absolutely love their writing. This is fun, it is cute, it has beautiful writing and moments, and please read this if you have not yet. I know everyone read this last year, but if you haven't read this yet, pick it up this October. And then the last book in this category is a bit of a hit or miss recommendation, and that is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I know that there was so much hype around this book a couple years ago when it came out, and then it came out, and I know a lot of people were super disappointed. I originally was not planning on picking this up at all. I was kind of like over vampires at that time, but I'm so glad I picked this up. I read this on audio and it was great. This takes place in what, like 1872. Takes place in 1872 in New Orleans, and you are following this girl who comes over from Paris, and you know that she is kind of on the run from something, but you don't know what. And she has decided to start over in New Orleans, and so she is at this coven with this other group of girls, and while they are there, they're supposed to work for, I called it a coven, a convent. They're supposed to work for this convent, and then the convent will help them find men that they can marry, and she can start over her life in New Orleans. But while she is there working for the convent, she meets this woman who she is supposed to make a dress for, and this woman kind of brings her into this dark group, and they may or may not be totally human. I know the biggest complaint about this book is that it isn't explicitly paranormal until the very end, but I thought this book was plenty paranormal. Like I said, it's not explicit. You're not told like they are vampires until the end, but you meet the vampires, you meet the paranormal creatures in here. You just don't know that they're paranormal until the end. If you like this book, book 2 is very paranormal, or if you thought this book was good but you didn't like that it wasn't paranormal enough, book 2 has all the paranormal creatures. It is super paranormal. Part of the reason why I loved this so much is the writing is stunning. Renee Audier's prose is so beautiful. It works so well for this like historical setting, and the audiobook is beautifully narrated. Narrator's accent is stunning. The last couple books that I have are all adult. I'm going to kind of start with the one outlier, and that is A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. This is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell series, and this is a historical mystery series that follows our heroine, Veronica Speedwell, who is a scientist, but she is back in London for the funeral of her great aunt. And after the funeral, she is nearly captured and abducted during a break-in at her aunt's house. And after that, she's kind of wrapped up into this mystery of who these people are and why they want to capture her. She is teamed up with a man named Stoker, and the two of them butt heads and don't really get along, but they have to work together to try and uncover what is going on here. And the two of them have the best slow burn romance ever. You're gonna have to wait a while. It's a 5-book slow burn romance, but their banter is absolutely fantastic. I adore this series. The mystery in here is so much fun. In all of the books, it's a different mystery, but there's kind of like these connecting threads throughout the whole thing. So each book wraps up completely, but you get more from the characters and their backstories and stuff if you read them in order. So I definitely recommend reading them in order. And then the last ones that I have are all romance. So first up, I have The Headmaster by Tiffany Reese. This is a short little novella, and I am not going to go much into the plot of this because I went in knowing nothing, and this book blew my mind. So you are following a woman who is a teacher, and she is on her way to try and like find a new job. She has recently lost her teaching job, and she is stopped at this rest stop area, and she overhears someone saying that one of the local boarding schools is in need of teachers. And so she quickly jots down where this school is, and she goes on her way to try and find this boarding school. And while she's there, she has a crash. And when she wakes up, she is in the headmaster's office, and the headmaster is this beautiful man, and the two of them kind of hit it off, and she starts teaching at this all-boys boarding school. But the boarding school might be haunted, and it is so good. It has a fantastic romance, it has fantastic characters, it has a fantastic plot, it has a fantastic ending. So if you want a paranormal romance, definitely give this one a read. It is not scary, but it is twisty. Next up is Sacrifice by Katie Robert. The first 2 books in this are already released. Book 3 was supposed to be released, I think, in December, but it has been pushed back. So the first 2 books are out. I will preface this by saying both books end on a cliffhanger. So if you do not like waiting, you might want to hold off until next year for this series. But this is a steamy polyamorous vampire romance, and it is super steamy. If you do not like blood, you might want to skip this one because there is a lot of blood play in here, as well as dubious consent. It is consensual, non-consent later on, but in the beginning it is non-consensual, so trigger warnings for that. This follows a heroine who is the daughter of a vampire. She is sent off to this house to this other powerful vampire, and she is kind of just meant to be dinner for him, possibly bear his children if she can. And she's tossed into this house, and she discovers that this guy might not be quite as evil and terrible as she thought. And she meets these two other powerful vampires, and the three of them form this polyamorous relationship semi-reluctantly, I will say. There are other threads in here. I'm not selling this very well. This book is really fun. It's really sexy. It has this wild magical plot underneath it. I will say this book is slightly over the top, but if you're just looking for a fun, sexy vampire story, definitely give this one a read. It is such a good time. The last paranormal book I have is The X-Hex by Erin Sterling. This was one of the paranormal romances that I was most excited for this year, and it completely delivered. This is following a girl who at the beginning discovers that the boy that she was dating for the last couple of months is actually betrothed, and so they have this big blow up fight, and she goes to her cousin's house and the two of them start drinking, and they decide that they are going to put a hex on him, and they think they're all just playing a joke, but they accidentally really do hex him. And so you flash forward to 9 years later, and he has been spending his time in Wales. Now he is tasked with coming back to the small town in Georgia to kind of magic up the ley lines. When he returns, he discovers that he's cursed. This curse starts wreaking havoc on their small town, and the two of them have to work together to try to reverse the curse. This was so much fun. The small town is like the Good Witch crossed with Stars Hollow. I want to move. I want to move here. Like 100%. It's so cute. The second chance romance was so much fun. There was tons of grovel, cute banter. This was just, it is a really good time. If you want a fun, romantic, witchy story, highly recommend this one. The last book I have is How Sweet It Is by Dylan Newton, and I have been waiting so long to put this on this recommendation video. This is a contemporary romance that follows an event planner who is getting famous for her weddings, but her best friend enlists her to help plan this launch event for a really famous horror author. When the two of them meet, they have this absolutely outrageous meet cute that is so awkward and so adorable. This is their romance, and I loved this romance so much. This takes place like in the month leading up to Halloween. So his book launch event is going to take place on Halloween. And so you're kind of in the Northeast, and it has all of the fall vibes. Again, adorable small town. The hero is, I believe, from New York, but she is spending time, I think they're in Vermont, if I'm not mistaken. And so, like I said, it feels very Hallmark movie-esque, but like make it sexy. And that's what this did. I absolutely loved this book. I cannot recommend it enough. Okay, so that is it for this recommendation video. Let me know if you have any good, not spooky books for this time of year. Leave them in the comments below so that I can check them out, so that everyone else can check them out. And I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!